Hi everyone. This is my presentation for ISCI 706 final project, genreification in school libraries. So we're going to talk about some definitions. What is genreification? Secondly, why should you generify your collections in your school library? Some common reasons. Section 3 is pros and cons, some benefits and drawbacks to generifying. Section 4 is the process or steps to follow if you're going to genreify. And Section 5 is some tips and tricks, what to do and what to avoid when you genreify your school library collection. And then the end, Section 6, is my references or works cited section. So let's start with some definitions. What is genreification? Genreification is a specific approach to library collection organization which departs from the traditional approach of classifying materials by their Dewey Decimal classification numbers into reader interest classification. The process of genreification is one in which the school librarian organizes the collection by subject or genre, Muller and Becknell. Organizing the fiction collection by genre rather than alphabetically by authors' last names is a step towards student empowerment and away from dependency, so says Torres, 2021. And organizing books by theme and then sub-organizing by author, according to Sultanic. So why genreify? What are some common reasons for genreification? There's many possible reasons to genreify a book collection within a school library. Some may include the fact that current organization schemes like the Dewey Decimal System cause frustration for students who seek to use the collection but don't know how to navigate it. You may want to genreify because your current library layout is not conducive to the best use of your space. You also might want to genreify because of the limited time for library checkouts and readers advisory services provided by librarians, meaning students need to be more independent when they're searching for books, but with the current classification system, that's kind of not possible, so you may want to rearrange and genreify. Another reason to genreify is if current organization systems cause confusion for those who are unaware of how to navigate the catalog or locate physical materials. Some pros and cons or benefits and drawbacks to consider before genreifying your collection. One major pro is that students will not need decimal skills. The most common current collection organization scheme, the Dewey Decimal System, requires students to have decimal skills when writing down call numbers and locating materials on shelves. This can cause difficulty and frustration, especially for those young school library users like elementary students who have not yet mastered the skill of decimals. A con to this that a lot of people mention is that if you change it away from the typical Dewey Decimal classification, students who come from a school with a genreified collection may not be prepared to navigate other systems, so they may not be able to navigate their way around a Dewey Decimal library, or if they matriculate upwards to, say, a high school that only has the Dewey Decimal collection, they may not understand how to use it because they come from a school with a genreified collection. So it's one argument that, yes, they won't need decimal skills if you genreify, but the con is, when are they going to learn those skills? Some of the most popular pros to the genreified collection approach is it creates more student independence because most students are used to things being organized by genre. Think about when you go into the bookstore or when you're scrolling through things on Netflix. Pretty much everything in our lives is genreified, and it's easier to find and locate materials without assistance if they're organized by genre. Also, it makes readers advisory services easier. If a child comes into the library looking for a book, but they already know what they like or don't like to read, it's a lot easier to point them in the right section or direction if everything is grouped together by genre. Grouping by genre also supports browsing. Browsing for materials similar to something they liked or an author they enjoyed becomes a lot easier when those items are grouped together on shelves and on displays. Some cons to consider: space, time, and finances. The process of switching to a genreified organization scheme is very time consuming, and it requires resources such as new labels and signage, which could come at significant cost depending on the system you use or your size of your collection. Your available space may also limit your possibilities when genrifying. Collection management is also another con or issue that comes up with genreification, because you might genreify and find that your collection has really big gaps that need to be addressed, which means you need to spend more money to add to the collection, or you need to do some weeding because you have a lot of things that are outdated or just not being circulated, and that takes additional time and financial resources in order to address. All right, stage 4, process, steps to follow. So I broke it down into 4 very simple steps. It's really a lot more steps than this in some cases that I read, but I was talking to my school librarian in a personal interview, and when she did it, this is basically the method she used. She first sorted the books into genre categories in the online catalog, making sure that each book was assigned a genre online, and then printed a guide list in order to help her know which books to pull from which section. And then she started by pulling books one by one from current locations and grouping by genre on tables or shelves, and just setting them aside together to get ready to be relabeled. And then she moved on to relabeling with color-coded labels for the genre. That also made it easier to see which genres were larger or which may need more shelf space. And then step 4 was to rearrange the shelves or furniture as needed and to reshelve the books. And don't forget to update your signage for the new sections. It's fairly simple. There's many different genre labels that you can create when you're genreifying a collection, and it's really up to the librarian. You have to decide how many genres you would like and what your color code system is going to be, if you're going to color code, or your labeling system, whatever it will be. And then, what do you want to use? One consideration is making sure that your categories are broad enough that they can, serve for multiple things. Like, for example, my librarian decided to do a horror thriller category. So it wasn't just horror books that went in there, but also like thriller or suspense type books. There was a mystery category, romance, graphic novels, historical fiction, realistic fiction, fantasy, science fiction, those sorts of things. So you want to make sure you have enough categories to cover everything, and that they're also broad enough to be inclusive. Some tips and tricks, what to avoid and what to do when genreifying. I know it's tempting to create collections and categories like LGBTQ materials or African American literature, but you kind of risk alienating some readers if you isolate these materials in their own section. And readers who are averse to reading those types of materials would easily avoid that. Whereas, they may serendipitously stumble upon an LGBTQ romance in the romance section they didn't intend to check out, and then actually really like that book if you do keep those in the general section but label it. So the opposite of the don't single out materials with controversial topics, do accommodate searches for those categories. If you do have, like my school librarian was talking about, we have a lot of kids that are specifically interested in the LGBTQ section type books, but she didn't want to isolate those books and make them stand out. So she put them into their genre categories and then just created a little tag system. So it was easier for her to pick out the ones that the kids were asking for in those sections. And then, she had kids stumbling upon those books that didn't really intend to find them, but that ended up really loving them. Also, don't create exclusionary genres. Instead of creating categories like guy reads or chick lit, try things like quick reads or love as genre categories. So you're not really excluding anyone or driving anybody away from a category just because of the title. Do use Goodreads or Amazon reviews if you're having trouble deciding what genre a book belongs to, or if a book has multiple possible genres. Those tools can be very helpful to narrow down the genre of a book that you're going to label and put in your collection. And here's my references, Works Cited page. The first is the personal interview that I did with my school librarian, and the rest of these were some very helpful journal articles that I found that discussed the process of genreification, what it was, and how other school librarians went about doing it. Thank you. And credits to SlidesGo, Flaticon, and FreePic for the presentation template. Thank you for viewing my presentation. I hope you enjoyed.